Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, Hempster. Welcome to another inspirational hemp episode of HempAware Radio. Tyler Hemp here, your hemp-entrepreneurial host, here to hempower and hemp-educate your hemposphere because it's hemportant. And as you may know, we love to discuss the benefits and uses of industrial hemp for food and homes and clothing and energy applications and so much more. And so thank you so much for investing your valuable time with us today. I think you're going to love this conversation I'm about to have with my good buddy Dion Markgraaff, longtime hemp cannabis expert, educator, entrepreneur, and in my opinion, a living legend in the hemp world. I'm super excited to have him on today because I've had a dream for over 16 years to have my own beautiful, healthy hemp house, my beloved Hempress, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, hemp homes, building with hemp. If you tuned in to the last episode with Tommy from Hempitecture, you'll pick up on our pattern here. I just feel so inspired and ready to start really diving in and talking about this topic a lot more since it can so positively impact so many areas of our lives, which we're going to cover today. But for those of you who may not have heard of Dion, Dion Markgraaff has more than 29 years of experience in the cannabis and hemp industry and has achieved many firsts in these industries, including founding Europe's first hemp store called Cannabis in Amsterdam in 1993, as well as being an integral part of creating the Cannabis College of Amsterdam. He also worked with General Hemp, a privately held equity company that hugely influenced and fostered the start of the CBD industry in the USA and around the world. I really could go on forever about how cool Dion is and all the great stuff that he's done, but for the sake of time, I'd love to get this party started so we can dive into our most important topic ever. So without further ado, welcome aboard to the Hemp Education Station for Every Nation, Mr. Dion. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I love it.
Cool, man. So, yeah, you and I actually got to see each other again over in Idaho and catch him at the US Hemp Building Association's partnered event with Hempitecture, which is really awesome. I'm so excited to see the progress, and having visited a couple of hemp structures was really fulfilling. But before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty, could you share some of your most favorite accomplishments and some cool things about your cannabis history and background, where you come from? And I know you've been on the show once before, but for those who maybe have not met you or heard of you, kind of what your integral part in the hemp world has been, some of your favorite accomplishments.
Well, yeah, it's been a long road, but you covered some of them. You know, it was cool opening the first hemp store in Europe, in Amsterdam, called the CIA, Cannabis in Amsterdam. And I also at the same time coincided starting the High Times Cannabis Cup in my store for sort of like the grand opening. And then, yeah, starting the Cannabis College because, you know, as we know that the whole hemp evolution and revolution is about education. You know, once people know and have the option to choose hemp, they should or could or would, you know. And other than that, I opened the first medical cannabis dispensary in San Diego in 97 after the law passed. It wasn't easy, and I ended up getting prosecuted many times. But I helped, you know, get the legalization happen here in California with Prop 64, and it was I played a big part in the beginning of the hemp CBD. You know, importing it from Europe here in San Diego was like the birthplace of commercializing hemp CBD. And so it was, even though it was a very odd way everything happened and unfolded, I'm happy that, you know, that's become a big successful part of hemp and cannabis. So
Most
I guess
certainly.
those are the main
Yeah.
things. But I'm super happy where I am now in, concentrating and working on hemp construction. I think it's of all the things I've done in my whole history, this is, probably the most important, or, as important as anything I've ever done, especially with the sort of precarious position we're in.
Absolutely. And that was actually my next question. Out of all the things that you could be focused on, I mean, from, all the thousands and thousands of opportunities that hemp provides, you're inspired for whatever reason and love to put your attention into this building with hemp. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what inspires you to put your love and attention on building with hemp?
Yeah, I mean, I've known about it ever since the early 90s when, I was publishing information about building with hemp. But I've always been, sad that it hasn't taken off. And I just, again, with our eco crisis, and it just seems like such an important no-brainer way to change the whole paradigm of, shifting the number one problem environmentally, which is construction. It's the biggest source of pollution. Something like 46% of all the CO2 in America is produced through construction, whereas all the combined transportation is 33%. And so to flip that from a carbon huge problem into hopefully a carbon sequestering solution, sequestering CO2 will help harmonize and change the paradigm of where we are. And I'm sure it's going to happen. I'm very confident it's going to happen, but it just needs to happen quickly, and we need to get going now because we've probably gone past the point, but hemp is our best hope of our survival and many species survivals.
I agree, and one of the biggest teachings that I think is on the planet, and pretty much every kind of spiritual practice or religious practice, is it's not so much what you're doing out in the world, but what are you doing in your own home, and peace really starts within yourself. I look at our physical bodies as our home, but then we have our physical home that we live in day to day with the four walls, and then we've got this earth as our home, and then we've got this universe as our home. And so I love that concept of just bringing it home, which is what, one of the documentaries on building hemp houses was called, Bringing It Home. And so, and the word home actually comes from the Greek word oikos, which is where the word eco comes from. So when you think of like economy or ecology or ecosystem, it all has to do with home, our home. And so by increasing the value of the quality of our home experience, we're going to dramatically, I think, create a paradigm shift ultimately in our consciousness, how we're, the health of our bodies, the health of our minds, and the health of our environment. So it's very exciting, definitely the most exciting topic for me right now as well. And to kind of go down that vein of helping make it hempen with all this building stuff, you guys have developed the US Hemp Building Association, of which you're the vice president now, and got a really great team of people spearheading this association. Can you tell us a little bit about the vision and mission of the US Hemp Building Association?
Yeah, we've just gotten going. Where the industry is today, there's, not that many companies and there's not that many homes being built at the moment. So, by creating this association, we can help each other network and help each other and drive consumerism because, that's the bottom line. People need to know how and why to live in hemp homes and why it's superior in so many ways. That really, developing the whole market, and that's where we're at. So we're at the beginning stages, and we're trying to incorporate, what's out there and to facilitate growth in all the different areas. And, construction in America is a $1.3 trillion per year industry. So there's lots of money.
Wow.
And, money is really what changes things. And so we have to, show and prove that it makes economic sense in so many meanings of the word that we need to, use this material.
Exactly.
And
it's
not just also, for the construction of the home, also particle board, plastic, activated carbon, all these. Basically, the hemp plant is a raw material for, so many basic uses. And that's really where we need to, give the business world this, better, cheaper option that, helps us in so many ways.
Exactly. Yeah, I know kind of the four main focuses on the ushba.org website is education, communication, connections, and advocacy. And so you guys are helping build that bridge from the builders to the homeowners or people that are desiring to own a home, and give both sides that level of education that they would need to make an educated decision on working with hemp. And once they see the benefits and value and how easy it is to work with, it's going to be a no-brainer. So one of the other things that I realized – go ahead.
Well, I just think that, the level of education in hemp is so high at the moment, especially historically speaking, with the internet, and now that we just legalized hemp and CBD being so popular, people are finding out that hemp is a construction material, but now we need to sort of get those products out there to the masses and have it be an option. And so,
exactly.
Yeah, that's basically where we're at.
Awesome. And that the education industry, actually the online education industry, based on 2018 numbers, is a $108 billion industry a year. So not only do you have this $1.3 trillion construction industry to influence and to inspire people to switch over, but there's so much education that needs to happen or that could happen. So there's money there to help make this float. They call it currency for a reason, because it makes things float. It's like a current.
There you go.
So
let's get it flowing.
Exactly. So what are some of your favorite methods? There's several different methodologies for building hemp homes. The spraycrete and the pour method. And then you've got hemp fiber board, like MDF board, and now there's like this hemp wood product and insulation. And out of all the different products that you've worked with and seen on the market, what are some of your favorite methodologies of building with hemp?
Well, I would be excited to work with the brick if it was more readily available here, just because, it's quick and easy, but at the moment there's really only been the sort of flow hempcrete style that is available so far. The hemp wood particle board has just come on a market with a company out of Orange County called Hemp Traders, and a division called Canna Grove. And they have, I think, three different types of particle board, which is exciting. And there's a new one out of Kentucky called Hemp Wood, and that one is like, wow. It's I just at the summit got my first piece, and I'm holding it in my hands right now, and
Nice.
it is just so amazing. So, supposedly, it's 20% stronger than oak, which is a very strong wood, and holding it in your hand, you could, start to believe it. And so I've seen pictures on their website of like 4x4, pieces that I think, wow, this is really going to be game-changing material. And you can watch a video of their machine that makes it, and it's just really the raw stalks going in there and getting crunched with their, I suppose, proprietary method and, binder. But, this is really one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And,
I agree,
it's that kind of thing we need.
I agree. Yeah, it's super dense. I mean, the weight of it is just almost unbelievable. How dense they can get it. The strength seems incredible. Like you said, when you just hold it in your hand, it's truly amazing how wood-like it is.
It does. I'm looking at it. It looks so woody, and it's got the rings from being compressed. And then I've seen on the internet a picture of it really nicely polished in bowls that look pretty amazing.
Nice. Yeah, and the Cannagrove product, also a phenomenal product for subflooring or cabinetry and speakers and different custom carpentry projects. We've actually partnered with Lawrence at Hemp Traders and Cannagrove, and we also offer on Bulk Hemp Warehouse the 3 different sizes. They're 4x8 sheets, but they come in the 1/2 inch and the 3/4 inch. With 2 different versions of the 1/2 inch. There's a 29-pound density and 39, which, for those that need a little more strength. But these are just amazing products, and I totally agree. I haven't actually had as much experience, working with hemp construction. I'm not a builder, and I kind of live out in the woods, so I don't have too much opportunity getting into hemp building projects. But that's definitely changing. And I know you've definitely worked on quite a few different projects and visited a few. How many hemp houses would you guess are on the earth right now? I mean, France has really taken the lead, I think, when it comes to hemp homes. But how many homes do you think in total are currently on earth made of hemp?
Well, that's a really interesting question. We're hopefully soon going to publish on.
Oh, just cut out. Did I lose you? Can you hear me, Mr. Dion?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Okay, there you are.
I can hear. Oh, sorry. I dropped my phone. I was getting too excited.
No worries.
So we're
about
hoping
to
publish on our website an interactive map of all the hemp homes in America, which I guesstimate there's between 40 and 50. In Canada, I'm going to guess there's another maybe 30 or 40. In Mexico, just a handful, if that. But around the world, definitely France would be the most. With what I was asking Alex Sparrow about that question. So he says many 1,000 in, say, France, a few hundred in Great Britain, a few in Ireland. Surprisingly, not that many in Germany, which I would think there would be more. But quite a few in Poland. There's some good Polish hemp companies. And, of course, Sergey, our friend in the Ukraine, he's done quite a few. And Switzerland. So I would guesstimate, Europe, I don't know, 2,000 maybe. And then, in Africa, I know of at least 2, Tony Budden's house. in Cape Town, and he also helped build a soup kitchen out of hemp in Soweto in one of the townships. And they're actually also distribute hemp seed oil, and it apparently has made a huge difference nutritionally in the neighborhood that they notice. And then there's quite a few in Australia. I'd say, maybe up to 100, I'm guessing, and then a few in New Zealand.
Right.
And in South America, I know at least one, our friend Stephen Clark from Heaven Grown in Mexico. He built a hemp classroom for the ex-president of Uruguay on his agricultural school farm. He built a hemp classroom with him.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. So it's tiny, but it's growing fast, and I would say it's and I have a few more questions that I'll get to on that in a little bit. But so, is there much of a history based on your research and knowledge of building with hemp, other than the last 50 years of hemp building? Like, is there ancient history that you're aware of any cultures that have built with hemp that we've discovered, or has it pretty much been like fiber products that are like clothing and twine and kind of medicinal side of things?
No, the answer is that we've been building with hemp throughout time in a lot of civilizations around the world, like the Romans and the Roman aqueducts. There's a lot of things that have survived around the world. I know there's a famous 500-year-old house in Japan, or maybe 600-year-old house in Japan. So you can see on the internet. There was an interesting, I think the best documented, oldest one that I'm aware of is these famous caves in India where there was a whole, let's say, like temple city type configuration in a cave, and one section was used, the hemp lime technology, and another section right next to it who used the same technology but not hemp. And over 1,500 years, there's been zero degradation on the hemp one, and the non-hemp one was like 25% degradation. So basically, we've been building with plants and lime throughout time. Even if people know Balboa Park here in San Diego, which was built 100 years ago for the World's Fair, is made in part with hemp. And it was actually, the park was built as temporary construction, and it's lasted, pretty perfectly the last 100 years.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, which also I speculate the main train station downtown is too, because it was built at the same time by the same builder.
Very cool. Well, ironically, I live in a place where it in the little town that I'm in, it's near a place called McLeod, California, which is right near Mount Shasta. And in this little town that I'm living in, it was built by Masons, and supposedly the person that spearheaded the buildings and projects here was William Randolph Hearst. So there was no hemp involved.
Right.
He partnered with Abner Weed, who's the founder of Weed California. But interesting history, because we're reviving and the phoenix is rising from the ashes here. That's for sure.
Well, you'd be surprised. You know, it was common in so many products that are sort of overlooked by history or not accentuated. Like everything, of course, ropes, but even like tea bags and things in couches, and just things that weren't on the surface. And when it came to construction, hemp is not cheap historically, so it's not like they would add the fibers, which I think they did more than, say, the herd. They would add the fibers just for strengthening up their mix.
Right, because there's not much strength in the herd fiber. The tensile strength really comes from the bast or outer bark fiber of the plant, right?
Right. And, historically speaking, the fiber was super valuable, so they would pull that out.
Yeah.
And the leftover, which still has some fiber. I think, tech-wise, we try to get it below 3%. Or, it's debatable exactly, but, a low amount of fiber. And, mostly herd.
Is the reason why you want to have a cleaner herd for your hempcrete because it will not be as absorbent for the lime to kind of impregnate all of the cellulose? Like, does having the long fiber in there make it less strong or something?
When it comes to your question more about its cleanliness, I think has more to do with its breathability, transporting air and water, which it's really magical properties. But when it comes to the fiber, I think that's more like a modern thing where with today's mixers, it'll tend to ball up the hemp, when it's getting mixed. So I'm pretty sure that's some of the logic in there.
Right, because one of the biggest challenges right now is 95+% of the U.S. farmers that are growing hemp are growing for CBD, which we know is a very low quality fiber product. It's obviously grown for its cannabinoid production, so those stalks are a lot more branchy, harder to process. They don't have as good of a quality of fiber. But all these farmers are now left with all these extra stalks just kind of in piles on their farms. And, we get 3 to 5 calls a day of people asking for us to buy their stalks, but there's really no solution at this point. It would be great to have maybe a mobile decorticator or start experimenting with some of these CBD stalks to see if they could be used for hempcrete. What is your experience or opinion on that?
Well, a few things. There can and will and has been a marriage of both. You can have the fiber and the CBD. So the first CBD really came out of Holland and a company called Dun Agro, which is also the source of the hemp herds we use. But of course, they're using very low percentage varieties. So I think that just the two need to be married up. And as far as the stuff that exists today, there are small scale decodification machines coming out of Europe, and that's a little bit of a kind of holy grail because it could be done on little regional levels. But really, to be efficient, you probably need, like, say, one good-sized one.
Permanent structure.
Let's say, in a farming area of 200 or 300 square miles. Hopefully, you have one central one that does at least, let's say, a ton an hour or more.
Exactly.
Because then it's just, you're just separating it into all its different, useful, properties. And you can do it on a scale that makes it doable. All right. Industrial machinery in America and around the world is really on such a huge scale that, you know,
Right.
you need, you know, a huge amount to feed into these things or it's not economically viable.
Profitable.
And that's really where
Yeah.
we're at. You know, we're right in that
It's
in-between period. And so there's one that just has come online in Pennsylvania. There's a little one in Montana. So there's starting to be little ones around the country, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
Basically,
Exactly.
you know, I would say we need like
agree.
1,000 or more all over the country. You know, ASAP.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Incidentally, there's a great opportunity up here in Weed, California. Actually, in McLeod, there's an old lumber mill that's being repurposed, and they're very much open to having a hemp processing plant. So it's a little bit off the beaten path. It's probably 20 miles from the 5 freeway, so it's not too far out for, you know, trucks to haul in and out. But I would love to see one up here for all the farmers that are interested in growing, because all the farmers up in Northern California are not savvy when it comes to cannabinoid production, and they're kind of, to be polite, still, you know, stuck in the old world thinking of reefer madness, but they are open to the industrial side of things. You know, they want to see the fiber construction, so that I think this will be a mecca of hemp building in the near future. But to kind of get into the nitty gritty and to share with our listeners, like, how to work with hempcretes. You've obviously built a tiny home on wheels and worked on several different projects over the years. What's the typical ratio when it comes to the water, the herd, and the lime, and how easy is it to work with hempcrete?
It is pretty easy. You know, it's like, in some ways, it's like baking a cake. You know, you could mess up easily, but if you, you know, practice a little and, you know, stick to the formula, then then it's pretty easy. And like we just had a class on Saturday here in Vista, working on my tiny house, and, you know, after like you know, a very short time, people were in charge of the mix themselves. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's super easy, and, you know, it's a really low tech as far as it's safe. It's much better in a lot of ways, but you know, doing it the form style, it is labor intensive, so you do need quite a few people ideally to help you. Doing what we call tamping, sort of pressing down the mix and
compacting it into the wall.
Right. So in that way, you know, it's also a nice, you know, it goes back to the old style of, you know, sort of community, you know, build or, you know, helping each other. But so with a big amount of people I had Saturday, I would say we had like 12 people. We did more in 4 hours than 4 of us being paid in 3 days of working.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So
that
you
get a kind of a line going and just get that flow going. It happens fast.
Yeah. So as far as there's a ratio of water, the herd mix, the binder, which can, you know, vary, you know, in composition a little bit, and the herd. So it's 1 part herd and 1.5 parts by weight of the binder, and then the same with the water. So after it's, you know, translating it, usually I do it by buckets. You know, you get a little system down. So it's like 4 buckets of hemp to 1 bucket of water, 1 bucket of binder.
Okay.
So, the hemp, the hurd is like the mass,
picks up the most volume.
And then, and it's amazing the whole water hemp, interaction. And then again, then as far as like how it'll breathe it in and, and the way, people know about hemp is, you got this long, tall plant that's growing at, quite a rate, in 3 or 4 months it can grow like, say, 12 feet. And the whole activation of that growth and bringing water up the stalk and the stalk itself, composition-wise, holding its structure, it's that element that becomes so what makes hemp superior in so many ways to other materials.
Right, yeah, the literal matrix of the cellulosic fibers helps with the breathability, with the absorption, the permeability of the wall. So, I mean, you've seen it, and we've heard educators talk about how, you see a small community of homes, and I think it might have been Sparrow or possibly one of the speakers at the last event talked about a sort of community of homes that were like green building home examples, I think in the UK, and everybody was flocking to the hemp house because it was like 90 degrees outside, but in the hemp house it was like nice and cool because it automatically regulates the temperature. Yeah,
there's so many amazing elements or factoids to the construction. The fact that it keeps humidity at a range between 40 and 60% all the time, no matter what's going on outside, and just, a comfortable range and a healthy range of living. That all occurs because it's constantly breathing,
Yeah.
It is pretty
I love
amazing.
it. It's like living in such an organic, natural environment. It's so exciting to think about. I can't wait till we all have our own hemp houses. So,
and I'm working towards, when we're more questioning when something isn't made out of hemp. You'll be like, what?
Right?
That's not made out of hemp? That's weird.
Exactly. That'll be the day. So that's great. Just kind of reiterate the ratio. It's like 1 part hurd to 1.5 parts binder to 1.5 parts water. Is that correct?
Right. But again, it's, when you talk about the volume and the weight are, it's kind of deceiving.
Okay.
The volume of hemp is so big, but by weight, because it's light.
By weight,
it's a little bit.
Takes up 5
it's hard to. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Whereas 1 bucket of water to 5 buckets, but it sounds like it's less, but by volume it's more, by weight it's less. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And of course,
and
what's
super cool. Just how, again, back to the breathing, and the whole chemical thing is it's turning back to stone over time, so it's slightly getting better over time, and it's breathing in 20% by weight more CO2. So, literally the more we can do, the better for all of us.
So the walls will literally continue to sequester CO2 even after the plants have been pulled out of the ground and processed, you're saying. That's cool.
Right. So, freeze it in.
Awesome. So when it comes to working with hemp, you said it's pretty easy. It's like baking a cake. You could get the formula wrong, but once you get the hang of it and work with it a while, you kind of can understand if you need a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that, you can kind of get your recipe down and get the hang of it. But what are some of the precautions that people might need to take when working with hempcrete? I know lime can be pretty caustic, like to the skin. What sort of preparations do you need or precautions?
Yes, when you're near to mixing it, probably wearing eye gear so it doesn't get in your eye. That lime definitely is, super harsh, that you need to wear gloves. When I was building my hemp home for Earth Day, the one on wheels, I went, I was trying to bust it out in a couple of days, and I really messed up my fingers, ignoring, because you could get blisters easily with construction, especially someone like me who's not used to it. And then, so that's a big concern. But like failing-wise, a big issue is back to the herd, that, it has to be the right specs. Like I got some of the Chinese herd from Larry at Hemp Traders to see if we could use that. And the particular one he had this time, when we got it here, we realized that the herbs were too big and there was too much fiber.
Oh, wow.
So we couldn't use it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it could still be further processed. Yeah.
So what's the ideal size for the herd?
Well, you'd get a little bit of debate, but I would say just, I would say like a 1/4 inch to an inch. There's sort of a range. And that's one thing with the US HBA that we're working on, is all the sort of technical data, for well, and the size and the cleanliness and the fiber content of the herd, and then when it comes to the binder and the lime, that it needs to be in the range of sort of X, Y, and Z, and so that's all the nitty gritty legwork that we're really is going to, once we have it done, will push us on another level and make it easier, because at the moment everyone's got to sort of push through your own building code, local government regulations versus a systemic thing like they have in Europe, and that's why the industry's doing a lot better at this point.
Totally. Well, you mentioned the tiny house on wheels. Tell us a little bit more about that project. Is that different from what you're doing currently with the other tiny home? I'm trying to basically these have just been like examples, especially the first trailer I did, the first tiny house, hemp house on wheels in the world. I had an event at Earth Day here in San Diego, and I wanted to show the power of hempcrete, and basically, we decided, if we could tow something in and out would be the best, and it sort of, evolved into what we did, and without much planning or forethought, we probably spent a week about planning. We built it in 1 day, and then in 2 days of a lot of people helping do the hempcrete, we got about 95% finished, which this was an 8 by 22 foot trailer with 10 foot high ceilings. And that's awesome.
Probably 7-inch wall. So I didn't, I was all new to it, the whole thing, so I didn't really think through the weight, which luckily
it's a lot of load.
But it worked out, And so we finished at one in the morning, and we drove it down the road to the park at 4 in the morning. So with just 3 hours of setting, went down the road, and to go down a road with the house is like the ultimate earthquake test,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it really is structurally unbelievable material, and it really is.
Where is it located
tremendously now? Earthquake. It's at my house. I'm looking at it right now. Actually, when I give classes, here, that's a big part of it. I actually had my first people stay the night this last weekend in it, and they loved it.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Do you plan on showing it soon, or when's the next event that you're going to be doing to showcase one of the tiny homes?
I'm going to start doing them every month here in Vista at my place.
Cool.
And then hopefully do them around that event. I'm trying to arrange to build a tiny house in front of everyone at the Emerald Cup, which is in a month away in Santa Rosa. I'm not sure if that'll work out. But at the next NOCO, for sure, we're going to have our own stage and our own area, and we're going to build a tiny house on wheels.
Awesome.
And basically, I hope to have some kind of option for people to do at events all over the country.
That sounds great. Yeah, once again, goes back. And believing is seeing too. It goes both ways. When we believe it enough, then we're going to see it too. Just especially when it comes to these industry. So what you have mentioned, on upwards of 2,000 plus hemp houses around the world. What other hemp structures have you had the chance to visit around the world?
I have gone to the first American hemp house. The first American hemp used in a house in Kentucky. So that's a little bit of a historic one. Locally sourced herd. Let's see. I guess I've been to, the ones in Denver. A friend of ours built the first permitted one in Denver. I've visited various tiny house ones, like in Colorado. There's a handful. Of course, the ones we just visited in Idaho were pretty incredible. Like that. There was a big, I forget how many couple thousand square foot home that basically has no air conditioner and never gets above a certain temperature throughout the summer. I think said 72 degrees.
When it can be 95 outside or outside, whatever.
Yeah, and all his neighbors have air conditioning, and he doesn't.
Right.
I think those are the main ones. Of course, I've visited Rome and seen all the ruins there, but I just guess I didn't realize that it was made out of hemp or made with hemp.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say so in terms of the countries that are leading the way in hemp building? Definitely France, with ISO and the different hemp companies that are leading the way. What other countries would you say are kind of the leaders in hemp building right now?
Definitely Great Britain. Prince Charles has made a home with hemp. They have government buildings going up all over the place. They made a supermarket, Marks and Spencer's, which is one of their, sort of like upper level type supermarket, or more like maybe like a Nordstrom's type thing.
Right.
And there's actually, people can look up, there's a show called Grand Design by the BBC. Like, it's a famous program that's been going on for years about just building in general. And the guy's favorite material is hemp. And they've done quite a few shows on it, including a whole sort of apartment block or, like condo type. So, yeah,
Kevin
really,
MacLeod,
Britain. Is that his name?
I think, yeah. I think so. Yeah, he was in Bringing It Home too, the hemp building documentary, right?
Right.
One of his projects. So
yeah, and Europe's a little bit more ahead with like eco building in general, and with government assistance. But all that's coming too here. I mean, there is no future without it. California has all these lofty CO2 goals, all these lofty environmental goals. Like here in San Diego, we've already voted to be zero waste. And, construction is the number one source of waste. And another attribute of hemp is zero waste. That's, a good part of this is the hempcrete that is left over or not used could go into your garden, or you can tear the hempcrete out and remix it and reuse it. So there really is, it's no other material like it, really. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. And, here in California, we need 3.5 million homes just to, break even. And what I was thinking, I don't know if you saw recently, I think within the last few months, there was a global study of how many trees we would need to plant to equal out our environmental crisis. And, it was several billion. No, I mean more to, level out the whole CO2. How many... how many trees would we need to plant? And that got me thinking, is how many homes do we have to build just using hemp that to equal that, quickly, and address address a huge need that the world has, which is, housing. Here in California, we have this huge housing crisis and homelessness. It's more expensive. It costs $30,000 to $40,000 a year per homeless person. It's much cheaper to put them in a house, or little home. So I mean, there's so many things that That's why I was telling. Well, one thing I was just, this whole organization I've been a part of now and getting it going, it's just good for me therapeutically because I feel like I'm going crazy with this whole subject that, and it's just, good to get this, word out there and change things.
Totally.
It's driving me crazy.
Absolutely. Well, with that said, that kind of segues into my next question, which is what are some of the biggest opportunities for professionals or entrepreneurs or, contractors, architects, just anybody either in the building industry, the green building industry, or even ancillary kind of side businesses that somehow affect this industry? What are some of the biggest opportunities that you see that could be filled right now?
Well, that's a very good question. On the macro level, finance-wise, anyone that could finance processing machines, certification, if you get your material certified, then you have everyone pretty much has to go to you. So those are big ones on the big level. But on the small level, the opportunity to apply technology and brain power is enormous. Anything that could add to, any aspect of the whole process whether, it's the drying or manufacturing or all these different things. Like, for example, like when we saw in Idaho, the spray machine, you basically are cutting down on the biggest cost, which is labor,
Labor, yeah.
So any, the form boards or, just little things, as the cliche always says, the gold rush was so much money, but the real money was on all the little things that go along with it.
The tools.
And I think this is totally applicable when it comes to hemp in general, but hemp construction big time,
Right.
And crossing materials, whether that's, using bamboo or coconut in hempcrete, or activated carbon in cement or in other materials. So stuff like that, brain power.
Finding materials that work well with hemp. Totally, yeah. Congealing and focusing the brain power, applying different technologies. One of the biggest ones right now, you said, is financing institutions or funding for processing equipment or manufacturing equipment, or just refining the process, looking at each segment of the process of building with hemp and seeing what tools can be created to make it even more efficient, it sounds like.
Yeah, like if you, for example, if you had the money, you could buy one of these plants that is doing this hemp wood, $8 million, plop it in the middle of the Central Valley, and just, as much as you could produce, I'm sure is as much as you could make at this point.
Absolutely. Well, man, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Just kind of as a parting comment and to turn people on to the US Hemp Building Association, there is an opportunity to become a member of the organization, which my beloved Hempress and I have already done. We're really excited to be a part of the USHBA organization, and we're going to be doing some really amazing things when it comes to education and advocacy. What is your vision for the next 5 years with USHBA, and what do you see this association accomplishing in that time frame?
I think that we are going to build an army of the new way of the economy, and I think really, again, it's just facilitating this economic opportunity. And I can't imagine, it could be so powerful and it's so needed, but, with all these different boxes that it checks, it really is important to me to just time-wise be, as quick as possible. So I hope in 5 years it's like another world we're living in. That it's my goal to make it, in a lot of cases, illegal not to be using hemp. I think California certainly needs to pass something like that ASAP with all our fire and earthquake problems. So
I love it.
That's my vision, take over everything.
Build the world's greatest empire. Well, I really appreciate your presence and just everything that you've done, Dion. You're a good friend and a good man. I really appreciate you coming on the show today, and look forward to making it hempin' with the USHBA and building hemp houses around the world. So thank you so much for this awesome content. And for our listeners, go to ushba.org and sign up to become a member or get involved in whatever way you can to help spread the word. If you have any specific questions for myself, you can email support@HempAware.com. Or if you need to get a hold of Dion, do you have a contact for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, my email is cannabismedia@gmail.com.
Perfect.
And
well, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, buddy. Well, you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in to HempAware Radio, the hemp education station for every nation. This is your entrepreneurial host, Tyler Hemp, and I'll catch you on the next show. Have a great day. Peace out, everyone.